Nick, so evaluate the offensive line so far. First game, second game, what'd you think of each performance separately or together or whatever?
I'd say let's go first game. First game, I think obviously we had our hiccups, but I think collectively we handled what we had to do. Is just the little things that we messed up on, which didn't help us in the end. But I think we grew, especially the second game, 305 rushing yards. I think a lot more better with the communication, working on those little things like I just said. So I think the trajectory's up.
In your play, what have you thought? How have you done?
I think I've done well. I think I've held my own, especially the role in now. It's kind of like that primary role, so I'm taking it more seriously, doing the extra things, and kind of just it goes to show that it's doing well.
What is the difference having the primary role in your mind and the likes?
I think mentally it's a little different, but kind of taking it into last year is you had to stay ready no matter what, because I played left tackle, I played right tackle, whatever they needed me. So it's kind of always had that primary mindset, but now it's going to full effect that primary is a primary.
How much has Matt Moore's philosophy of trying to play everybody everywhere, get everybody ready, etc. for years, how has that helped prepare you?
I think it helps a lot, especially going from left to right tackle. It's mentally you have to think everything's a little bit backwards, but being able to switch sides and kind of know what everybody's doing on the offensive line is big help, especially if sometimes, like I said, that communication is not there. You're able to understand the perspective of what everybody else has to do.
How many snaps you get in last year's Pitt game? Remember?
Probably single digits, probably. Nothing crazy now.
What do you remember from the last year's game with them?
We won, and just we ran the ball well. We did what we had to do, and the outcome was good for us.
Nick, what does this game mean to you? I mean, you grew up here, you saw it as a kid, you're playing it now as a college student. What does this rivalry mean to you?
This is big, especially growing up in Morgantown and being in my early days verbally committed to Pitt and kind of being where I'm at now. It's a surreal moment, and I think God's timing is perfect, and I'm here where I'm supposed to be. So,
Your first Pitt memory, how old were you? Do you remember going to a Pitt, West Virginia game when you were 6, 5, 4?
Yeah, that was a little blurry. I was probably out on the field playing tackle football, so I probably wasn't doing too much then.
Do you remember your first Backyard Brawl watching them?
Off the top of my head, I do not.
Is there one that stands out?
Last year, big one, yeah. Yep. For being a real part of it, that was the memory.
Did you grow up hating Pitt?
I think it's the collective of West Virginia hates Pitt, but I kind of just everybody. We don't like each other, is what you could say. Yeah.
Was there trepidation? You mentioned you verbally committed to Pitt. Kind of would have been interesting if that was your journey based on where you grew up.
Yeah, it's kind of. I think of it as it didn't work out. Go to Plan B, and Plan B obviously worked out better than Plan A, and I think I'm doing pretty well where I'm at.
It looks a lot different both on offense and defense this year. I know it's early in the week, but what has stood out in your preparation?
They like to blitz their backers, like to move around, stunt, all that kind of stuff, and kind of especially I feel like after our performance this week and kind of what we're known for, I feel like they're to load the box and kind of try to stop the run and that kind of stuff like that.
I know what a knockdown block is, but like, what is a knockdown block? How do you plan it? Does it happen? Is it just overpowering somebody?
I think it's a little bit of both, especially if you're one-on-one, you're trying to take them down the ground. Collectively, if you're working with your guard or your tight end and you get a good knock on somebody, you get kind of that half knockdown, but it's kind of when you're putting somebody on the ground against their own will.
Kind of empowering for you, demoralizing for them?
I think so, especially it kind of boosts you up a little bit because you knocked another grown man down, so it's kind of...
When you're talking about them bringing pressure, what's the biggest issue then? Communication? Being on point with that?
Yeah, just knowing the mic IDs and kind of the communication for everybody, because once you know the mic and you know where everybody's going, it kind of works itself out there after that.
See anybody blitzes as much as they do so far this year?
I think they'll be the one that blitzes the most so far out of everybody we played.
How do you guys handle that? I mean, you and Quay are sort of new beside each other, so you guys prepared? Do you think you handle blitzes well?
Yeah, we're prepared. It starts with Brandon. He's done a lot. He's gone a lot better from game 1 to game 2. In game 3, I think he'll be great. And it just starts from center out, and we talk, and it's like you're having normal conversations like this. You're kind of saying where you're going to, and it's just the little things. But I think we'll handle it.
Talk a little bit about you and Milam as a bookend tackle, so to speak, and is there any competition between you two guys on grades, knockdowns, or anything?
Wyatt and I, we're best friends. We definitely try to get each other better, and there's always definitely a little push and shove. Kind of, I try to poke him, he tries to poke me, and kind of go back and forth to see who does the best.
Have you learned from him?
Yeah, he's taught me a lot.
Is there a different energy in the locker room and at practice during Backyard Brawl week?
You could say it's a little elevated, but we kind of try to keep it. We say, especially in the O-line, try to keep it consistent because you don't want to try to ride the high or go too low. So it's kind of just even out.
Is this the week that's hardest to kind of block out the outside noise? I mean, is everybody texting you and that kind of stuff?
No, I'd say everybody's kind of. It's the beginning of the week, so I haven't got too many texts yet. But I'd say kind of just like I said, keep it consistent because you can't let outside noise kind of affect and burst out. So it's kind of stay low.
As an offensive line unit, do you expect to hear from Zach Frazier this week?
Oh yeah, we'll see him around. That's for sure.
You doing anything different this week? Because unlike, say, Pitt with their schedule so far, you had a lot of hype going into the Penn State game. That game didn't obviously go well. Are you trying to do anything different? Are you trying to learn from that?
I think it's just learning from that because, like you said, there wasn't too much film on them, but now Pitt's played their games and we have a lot more film to kind of study, know their tendencies, kind of what they're doing, and I think we'll be a lot more prepared than week one.
When you're home kicking back or you know at a bar kicking back watching a football game, how do you watch it? How does an offensive lineman watch a football game? Do you follow the ball?
I watch the O-line, especially like Sundays if you get a chance. Like we get to go to NFL games. I'm watching where the center's pointing, so I'm like, oh, I know where the mic's at. Kind of, if it's gonna be a run play, pass play, kind of just you start the O-line and then work to the big plays on the
Do you
outside.
learn from that? Or do you get enjoyment from it?
I'd say you definitely learn because we watch a lot of NFL tape as well compared to college, but you kind of see the best of the best doing their best, and you learn from that.
Nick, you mentioned preparing when you're in a backup role at multiple positions. As a starter, you know, and you're probably going to be at one spot for most of the game. Does that change the way you watch film and prepare? Are you more focused on, hey, who's going to be across from you? Or are you still looking at others a little bit?
I'd say looking at others because most of the time, most teams, they have a field and boundary, so you're kind of flipping between who you're going against. So you're kind of watching. So I'll watch who Wyatt's going against, and then I'll watch who I go against because they kind of switch. So it's a little bit of both worlds.
I think it was you. Matt Moore said in a practice you might lose 12, 14 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
All right, usually the other way, he'll have a hard time gaining weight instead of losing it. How do you, it was hard to get to 300 pounds, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
How do you manage the ups and downs and stay up and not get too down? And
Yeah, it's a lot of drinking, drinking water, a lot of shakes, and a lot of eating. Especially when you have to eat every 2 hours. Every 2 to 3 hours, you're doing something. So, especially before you go to sleep, that's the prime time to eat stuff.
so are you different after a practice than maybe Wyatt is or someone else in the offensive line? Like,
Oh yeah, I'd say I'd definitely lose the most and have to gain it back. But we're kind of, especially now it's cool out. You don't lose as much weight, but I'd say I definitely lose the most.
One of your teammates mentioned Haley and Bailey and helping them learn how to eat, the plan together. The first time you saw their plan for your weight maintenance, was it the volume of food? Was it what's on it? What struck you about it?
I think it was the volume because, like I said, I'm drinking 2 to 3 shakes every 2-3 hours, kind of just trying to maintain it, get up, and they definitely helped me a lot. Haley and Bailey have done a lot to help me to where I'm at today.
What's your go-to shake to drink, and then what's your favorite meal to eat to try to get that weight back up?
A chocolate Gatorade shake, at least 2 to 3 of those. Yep, and then I already know we're off that, ready to go, and then some steak and potatoes. Yep, and some greens too to help Haley and Bailey out.
How long before we see you on television? How
Say that
long
again.
before we see you on television doing ads for that?
Hey, I'm here when they need me.
To the Wyatt Milam end, he had cramping in the Penn State game, didn't come back in the second half. What was that experience like? How did that change things for you, and how has that maybe helped prepare you if that were to happen again, because it's still gonna be hot even if it's not that hot.
Yeah, him going down wasn't ideal for us, but Johnny stepped up. He just had one bad play out of all he did, but I think the two deeps and everything, I don't think there's not a huge drop off. So I think they can step in, and if Coach Moore asked me, I could play left if I really had to, but I think we have people capable of stepping up if anything happens to anyone.
You mentioned those young guys. You've seen growth with, Johnny, Xavier, Nick Cray, all those guys. What's their growth been like?
Yeah, Johnny and I'll start tackles. Johnny and Xavier, they've done really well, especially Johnny and X. They because we're with them every day, kind of doing tackle stuff. But Johnny's game ready, X's game ready, and then going inside, Landon. I think if Brandon ever had to go down, Landon wouldn't miss communication. He'd be able to step right in. And then left guard, Sully, he's able to step in. He's a big body. He's done it before. And then Nick Cray and Bryce Biggs at the right guard. I think we wouldn't have a drop off there either. So they've done really well.
Are you able to talk to some of those guys too, just how you developed over your career and the time it took you to where you are now?
That's why I tell them, especially Johnny, when he had to come in for the Penn State game, I said, you've trained, we've done, like I had to last year, you had to stay ready. He didn't know he was going to get in. He had to step up, and kind of he knew his role and kind of what I had to do, and he did his job.
You and Preston ever compare notes on how your paths have been almost identical? Do you talk about that much?
We don't talk about much, but we kind of just, like, we look at each other and we're just like, we just have that look. We just look at each other. We know. Every time he comes off from the punt returns, dap him up, we know. I just tell him, good job and everything.
Last time you were at Evansville Tiger game?
Yeah, that was back in the day. Tigers, shout out Tigers.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it.